I can't remember what I said in the last reaction, so I'm probably repeating myself, but not for the first time. So I'm probably repeating myself, not for the first time. Anyway, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. Hey, hey. My name's John. His name's Andy.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, another fucking payback with a twist. The motherfucker shot, but the punks missed. Ice Cube is outgunned. What is the outcome? Will they do me like Malcolm? More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to.
We do.
I love that album. But anyway, we have got a track to listen to.
We do. Unfortunately, it's not.
Spread your cheeks and give me two good coughs. Anyway.
Yikes.
Dear.
We are going to be revisiting a band that we've listened to on this channel before once to this point, I believe. The band is Deer in the Headlights. And the track by Deer in the Headlights that I'm going to have you listen to is Talk About. We did I'm Not Crying, You're Not Crying, Are You? And now we're going to move on to this other track from the same album, Talk About. So, do you recall your experience listening to the initial track?
Yes, I do remember. They seem to have, they did sort of struggle with titles, both of band names and songs. So Talk About is an improvement.
It is. It's much more concise too.
I'm not hung up on the name of the band. I really am not. But, you know, they like it, so what the hell? I'm sure they can live with it. But I shall go off and give this a whirl and come back and tell you what I think.
Excellent, man.
Like a constant crowd and consonant, I'm a claustrophobic. I said was comfortable as war, warm and naked and timid. Thank God your words have come to rescue me from my sentence. You're like a two-step and tongue on a flesh dance floor. Yeah, the eulogy I can't afford anymore. That tumor in my side, celebrating malignant surprise. I'm moving in, I think I've grown on your parents. You wanna talk about all the feelings I'm feeling? I'm a passed out priest in an AA meeting, and the check in my post, trying to make a decision. I got to throw back off another cloud in my vision. You're like a knock at the door in the middle of dinner from the friendly registered sex offender. Oh, clip with a mustache and a windowless van. You're telling me how much it changed. I'm trying to have this crown, and how you can't clone me.
Okay, it's got a relatively short song, so nice 3-note start and then a bit of a drums and we're into it. It's quite a rollicking sort of beat with the guitars. His voice, I don't strongly remember it from before, but it's got that slightly throwbacky quality to it. There's a bit of I don't mean this in the bad way. There's a bit of a shoutiness to it, which I quite like, actually. It really sort of goes for it. Yeah, it's quite endearing, actually. I really like the touch of the organs coming in there. It's what I kind of call those like organ chords like that. Like I call them raised eyebrow chords. And it just adds a little bit to it, lifts it up as well. Yeah, it's nice. I like this sort of dynamics there, which I presume was kind of like the chorusy bit. Again, it's that 3-note motif, and then a bit of stopping and starting as well. Just makes it a bit more interesting. Okay, let's see how it progresses.
Around your neighbors, hands on your father's throats. Will you go back inside? See, this is just for adults. So adult is what will be domestic violence, and then on each tumble down the stairs, abuse your puff, paint addendum. Say I'm your best friend, caught on a chain link fence. Not your arm, but they get caught in the future. Tell some jumping out of cake, something in all like your chalkboard wrist, but I don't tell.
Something interesting just happened then. Crosses my imagination. Let's just hear that bit again.
Jumping out of cake, selling divorce papers. I say I love you too, but I'm all out of favors. You wanna talk about all feelings? I'm feeling like your chalkboard wrist, but I don't tally the mean and keep forgetting the plot. Let alone long sleeves. My eyes say only knows the words they need just put out sleeves. I won't get home if I can find my crutches. Probably listen more. You didn't talk so much. Why don't you show yourself out? How can you cry out if something's been such a drop? Alright. About all the feelings.
So there's some quite nice fun bits there. Just after I started before, it was the drop down to just the bass, which was quite nice for the drums. Then there's a nice bit where there was almost like a stabby guitar, sort of just before the 2-minute mark. And then we go into this Annie Hall moment, la-di-da-di-da. Don't know why. Just getting odd words in the lyrics, and there's some interesting odd words, schizophrenia, domestic violence, and other stuff as well. I'm trying to write them down, and I will decipher them later. But and then just as I stopped, I could hear some nice keyboards, like electric piano type thing. Just go back a little bit.
Talk about all the feelings I'm feeling. You're a phone call home after 8 long seasons. There's a mail order bride and a baby that's teething. Said the small girl hurts your eyes, so on the next train you leave. And I'm not certain it's a small girl, just a constant gravy. But you drop it on the can, singing me with the feelings. I said, oh God damn it, you're so easy. Lose a twitch and cry about the things like that. But I've already lost them, I couldn't care less. I guess my passion just got one, so I just wish you all a narrow fence. I guess that's it.
We've just been transported to some sort of spaceship. There's like rocket taking off chords. It's really odd. Yeah, this is fun actually. I had a sense of fun and bouncing along and doing the odd things here and there. And sometimes bands throw them in for effect. But I think his enthusiasm and his vocal performance carries you into it, so you feel like you're dragging along with it, and you're not just viewing a spectacle of someone trying to show off or show and do things differently. It just felt like a fun ride. And his vocal style, man, there's somebody it reminds me of. But yeah, it has almost that sort of shouty 80s indie sort of feel to it, as opposed to the wishy-washy 80s indie feel. But yeah, I found myself warming to his vocals more and more as the song went on. It definitely pulls you along. It's probably the highlight of the song is his singing. But the guitar was doing some nice things. There was also like tempo changes as well, and then longer chords, and then the sort of jaunty little sprightly number as well. And the drummer was doing some nice stuff. When he was doing his la-di-das, it almost became a bit jazzy. It was a bit splashy. But yeah, overall, this was an enjoyable sort of poppy indie number. Yeah. Okay, let's get back and talk some more with Andy.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So,
Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, well, my pleasure. My pleasure. So what are we going to talk about? What do you think of this track?
Okay, so first off, I noticed it was familiar. I noticed it's the same thumbnail as before. So it's from that album, Dr. Unk Like Bible Times. Me like Bible Times too. Thank you, Dr. Unk. So it starts off this 3-note intro. Stella Sol would say it is the magic number. And then we're into the song. And it's a fairly sort of rambles along. It's a fairly standard song with a rollicking feel and a really nice beat. And then I'm starting to get some familiarity at this point after about 10 seconds, that yeah, this is the sound. So the guitar almost bounces along with the drums. Really sort of nice. It's jangly, but it's not jingly jangly, if you know what I mean. It's bouncy jangly, which is there's a huge difference.
Look it up.
That I've just made up. So for a couple of lines, we get what I call the old raised eyebrows from the organ. You get a sustained note of a nice Hammond organ. It's a bit of this is raised eyebrows.
Now I understand the nomenclature there.
And it's always one note per line, and it's like a big marker pen highlighting that line. It's really nice at touch, and I like it in songs, like it in this song. And then we get from that sort of versy part, we then get to the 3-note concentrate, the sunny delight of 3 notes, as they say, where everything drops out by the guitar, which then mimics the vocal melody, but for 3 notes only. And I did scramble this down, so apologies for any errors. But it sort of does this talk about all, the feelings I'm feeling, and then it was like a patched out priest I got, and then something about AA meeting. So he's singing along, and it just comes in for 3 notes during his lines, which is a really nice technique because he's just doing his stuff, and it just comes in and again colors in little bits here, and then we get like a 1-chord stab, something about checks in the post or something like that. Just as an aside, just to remember me something. So when we were at school, they had a TV room, and you could go in there with this time off, and there was a guy sitting at the front. He had a telly on a big box with old school, so it was all these big fucking tellies, not a flat screen or anything. It was as deep as it was wide.
Yes,
like in a big
I remember those TVs.
And they got chairs and a couple of old sofas, and he was right at the front, so you couldn't see anyone behind you. And someone on the telly, I don't know what the program was, but he said something about old checks in the post, and this guy who was in front of me goes, "Oh, it's the 3 biggest lies in the world." Should I say this? I won't say this. We can always cut it out. He said, "There's the 3 biggest lies in the world. Yes, I love you. The check's in the post. And no, I won't come in your mouth." And at that point, the headmaster of the school was standing in the room, and he goes, "Oh, so Richard, which one of those have you told?" And the guy went white. It was really funny. You see why it's stuck in my head. Anyway, so he says the check's in the post. He didn't say the other 2. And then we're back into full instrumentation. Yeah. So we're back with the band's back into the rest of the sort of chorusy bit, and but the guitar still continues that 3-note riff going through the rest of it, and his voice then stretches towards the end of the chorus. I think it's chorus, and there's some more good organ stuff right at the end. Now his voice, big caveat here. I can't remember what I said in the last reaction, so I'm probably repeating myself, but not for the first time. So I'm probably repeating myself, not for the first time. Anyway, his voice has a bit of that, and I mean this in a nice way, shouty quality to it.
Yeah.
But it's something I quite like about it, actually.
Yes.
It is like a throwback voice. It is slightly, and I was struggling to think whether it was initially, who's it reminded me of? And I was starting to think Jonathan Richman, but it's not. There's almost a little bit of geekiness in it as well, but it's more like an angry 80s indie sort of voice. rather than all the wishy-washy 80 jingly jangly voices that I heard a lot of back then.
Yes.
But there was the odd angry one who was pissed off with, I don't know, Wales or something. The mammal, not the country. But I did find it endearing, his voice. And as the song progressed, even more and more, actually.
Yeah.
So then back to the song, it goes into isolation with just the drums, which is always a crowd-pleasing move. Nothing wrong with that. I really like that. Plenty more organ chords then lift us up again towards the chorus. And as the organ is doing in there, right at the end, I did pull it back. There's a little twiddle from the organ. There's sort of like a squiggle at the end of the line. And it's like 1 second, if that. I really like that. I have to listen to it again. The other side of the chorus, we get a nice stabbing section where he goes into peak shouty voice as well. And the guitar is like a finger stabbing you in the chest. Like argumentative is what I got. It's really dun.
Yeah.
It's great. Really liked it. So the organ then collects its thoughts for this little 10-second section, and then it's Annie Hall time. La dee da. Or sorry, la dee da dee da.
Yes.
I thought that was just really funny. And it's like, well, I'm just not going to say anything now. I mean, it wasn't the same, but it's the same avenue as no, I'm not listening. No. It was kind of like that. I'm just if you're not listening to what I'm saying, I'm just going to go la di da di da. I thought it really funny. The drums go a bit splashy while he's doing the la di da di da. It's almost like that jazzy splash. I really like that. Yeah. The singer then comes back in again. This time, I believe it's an electric piano or a facsimile thereof, and it sounds gorgeous, really, really nice. Just him and that. There's more isolated vocals, and then he almost at this point chokes in his words. He's really, he's really getting there. And then band come back in full rollicking mode once again. It's once again engaged, and then apparently, for some unknown reason, we'll hop into a space rocket bound for who knows where, and the organ chords are just doing this replicating this lift off, and away we go to infinity and beyond. There's plenty of dynamics in this song, and sometimes, and I have complained about this and other stuff you've given me, that I felt like bands put them in for effect rather than purpose. But I think with the charisma of this guy and his vocals, and it seemed to fit together. It just, and it's fine with it. And there was this, let's say, this angry indie 80s energy to it, and him just pull you along. I thought the guitar had some really nice variation from the bouncy, jangly feel to a bit more open chords, and then he did some nice sort of plucking stuff. I wouldn't say noodle, but he was thinking about noodling almost. He was getting there.
There's a notion of noodling.
Yes, notion of noodling, which is the name of my autobiography. As to what it all means, well, I caught odd words that stood out to me, apart from others that I caught and probably just went, claustrophobic, sex offender, schizophrenia, domestic violence, and then baby teething, next train you're leaving. So we'll put that all together. And maybe it's because the time when we're doing this conversation, but it has a feel of like a Shameless TV episode with neighbours and families all fighting, and maybe a bank holiday barbecue as well. That's what I got from it all. But,
and in a weird way, you're kind of right, because it's like a portrayal of all these different weird, like bad or toxic relationships or dynamics that can occur in like cul-de-sac America or middle class America, and all the things you try to sweep under the rug to create the 2-car garage, 2 television, 2.5 kid facade bullshit that the census spits out, but it's actually there's some dirty underbelly to all of that, and I think that's what he's highlighting. These
so the guy goes off and has sex with little boys, and the wife is dealing oxy all day from her kitchen. Gotcha.
Sure. Sure, John. It's exactly what it is. Oh man. But yeah, as we discussed earlier, we've talked about these guys before. We've done another episode. I'll probably create a playlist or something. I'll link the other episode in the description field below. But I will try to touch on some other aspects of the band that hopefully we didn't tread on the first time when we discussed the last track that we did. I'm Not Crying, You're Not Crying, Are You? Catch my breath after that title. As you said, they are pretty long-winded, although they weren't with this track. Talk about. So they're an indie rock band from Arizona, and they're started by Joel Marquardt on guitar and keyboard, and Ian Metzger, who's the lead vocals and acoustic guitar. They started playing together in roughly 2005, and Marquardt convinced Metzger that they needed to start a band, and he finally gave in. And Marquardt quickly found PJ Waxman, who initially started out playing drums for the band, but they realized what a talented guitarist he was, so he moved to guitar. Once PJ took over that role, Deer in the Headlights were still left without a drummer and a bass player. They tried out several people, but nothing worked, and Joel received a phone call from an old friend and former bandmate named Chucky Duff, who played bass and had recently bought some recording equipment that he wanted to try out. So the next day, he came over and recorded 3 songs, Sweet Talk, Day Sleeper, and Run in the Front. The songs were successful, but Ian was burnt out from trying to find people for the band and was determined to move to California, and so he did. Duff kept listening to the demo and fell more and more in love. He was determined not to let them give up, and he called Marquardt and offered to play bass and promised him they'd find a drummer. Ian decided to give it a shot. Duff was right. Marquardt found a drummer, Mark Kolvinskis, through an ad on Craigslist, of all things. So Joel, PJ, Duff, and Mark practiced the songs, and Ian was still in California, and he got them down. And Chucky booked a show at Borders Bookstore and flew Ian out. He met the drummer, Mark. They practiced with Ian and played that night. Several more shows were played played like this, and Ian decided to move back from LA to Arizona. The next major decision was to make an album. And they did so with the famed Arizona record producer, songwriter for the Go Flex, and former keyboardist of the Ataris, Bob Hogue. Near the album's completion, the band started talking to and eventually signing a contract with the popular indie label Equal Vision Records. Their debut album, Small Steps, Heavy Hooves, was critically acclaimed, and the band grew to a much higher status through endless touring with major label bands such as Jimmy Eat World, Paramore, Plain White T's, Steel Train, Motion City Soundtrack, Circa Survive, and Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. Marquardt left the band in September of 2007 due to all this heavy touring schedule. He was just burnt out, and Robert Sissel was an obvious choice to replace him. They completed several more laps around the country and recorded Drunk Like Bible Times, this album, in early 2008. And in September 2009, bassist Chuck Duffy left the band in order to focus on graduate school and his studio that he had now thrown himself. He'd really fallen in love with recording and producing, so he threw himself into that. And he was replaced by Patrick Taylor in January of 2010. But in mid-July 2011, PJ announced that the band had broken up. Drunk Like Bible Times, this album, earned a 75% from AbsolutePunk.net, and Sputnik gave it a score of 4 out of 5 stars. In their review of the album, Sputnik would write, Deer in the Headlights put out Drunk Like Bible Times, a goddamn smash bang of a sophomore album, having everything a pop album should and a little bit more. So let's go over these lyrics really quickly before I jump back into the song. Now, this is a lot. He's packed a lot of words into these verses and choruses, so bear with me. You're like a constant crowding consonant. I'm a claustrophobic, I said. We're as comfortable as wool, warming naked indifference. Thank God your words have come to rescue me from my sentence. You're like a two-stepping tongue on a flesh dance floor. You're the eulogy I can't avoid anymore. That tumor in my side celebrating malignance. Surprise I'm moving in, and I think I'm grown on your parents. You want to talk about all the feelings I'm feeling. I'm a passed out priest in an AA meeting, and they're checking my pulse, trying to make a decision. I've got those rolled back eyes, but nothing clouding my vision. You're the knock at the door in the middle of dinner from the friendly registered sex offender, all equipped with a mustache and a windowless van. You're telling me how much you've changed. I'm trying to hide the crayons and know you can't come in. I'm like your neighbor's hand on your father's throat. Sweetie, go back inside. See, this is just for adults. So adult is what will be, domestic violence in denim. Each tumble down the stairs appeals your puff paint addendum. So you say I'm your backpack caught on a chain link fence, not dear. I'm a thank you card in the future tense. I'm jumping out of cake, serving divorce papers. I'd say I love you too, but I'm all out of favors. You want to talk about the feelings I'm feeling, like your chalkboard wrists, but I don't tally the meaning. You keep forgetting the plot, let alone the long sleeps. My eyes, they only know 3 words, and they're each pronounced please. I'd walk you home if I could. I'd walk you home if I could, find my crutches, probably listen more if you don't talk so much. Why don't you show yourself out? How can you cry now? This whole thing's been such a drought. All right. You want to talk about all these feelings I'm feeling. You're a phone call home after 8 long seasons. There's a mail order bride and a baby that's teething. Said the smog, it hurts your eyes, so on the next train you're leaving. I'm not certain it's the smog, more just the constant grieving. But you're dropping off the kids, sticking me with the feedings. Oh, oh, God damn it, you're so mean. You said I'll lose the Christian crowd if I said things like these, but I've already lost them. I couldn't care less. I guess my path just got wide. So I'll just wish you all my narrow best. I guess that's it. And those are the lyrics. So, writing in Spin magazine, William Goodman wrote an article about this specific single Talk About, and would say of it, when Talk About landed in our inbox a few weeks ago, it was as if we'd been hit with an anvil dropped atop the Empire State Building. And with its wall of swirling, crashing guitars intertwined with steam engine keys, and notably frontman Ian Metzger's ballooning diatribes on domestic violence, AA meetings, and sensory overlord, the track begged further investigation. In an interview for Goodman's article, Metzger would say, Talk About lyrically is a song I wrote with my good friend Derek Sperry over the course of about 40 or 50 hours. The song is a detailed account of the disagreement between two very intertwined and opposing existences. It deals heavily with isolation, bitterness, and occasional violence felt in something as simple as an argument or difference in opinion. And the emotional sentiment delivers. The ironically upbeat, sonically seam-busting tangles only accentuate Metzger's snarling, quick-tongued observations. We just wanted to come up with the most ridiculous and exaggerated metaphors of some lowly human interaction, he continued. Mission accomplished. So yeah, another fun, very energetic, interestingly penned from a lyrical standpoint song off this album that I really think is an excellent sophomore album and criminally underrated in that regard. And it's kind of a shame this is where it ended for these guys. Yeah. I think they were all just completely burnt out by the process, and they probably really blew their load on that first touring for the first album to garner the funds and the attention to propagate this album. And then by the time they were done with it, I think it was like, we're deflated, we're defeated, and they cashed out. So,
well, I guess it wouldn't help with some of the members of the band, you know, Chucky going off to make his beer, and Waxman to go off to do his surfboards. Yeah, I can see that.
Yes, with a name like Duff and Waxman, of course, surfer and brewer or beer connoisseur. Especially in the cartoon world of Springfield. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's great. Well, John, thank you for going on this second trip down the road of these guys and giving this song a listen. Really a big fan of this album, Drunk Like Bible Times. Guys out there in the listening audience, thank you also for giving this a listen. Let us know what you thought of this. If you listened to the last one, how does it hold up against it? Does it remind you of anything else? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? The comment field is there for you guys. We love interacting with you and seeing you all interact with each other. Also, while we have your attention, please think about liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't done any of those three, we greatly appreciate it. Trying to grow the channel, and we cannot do that without you. And hopefully, John and I will see all of you in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.